thanks everyone for joining this webinar for Cuppa for Climate. So this is something that we've launched last year. Well, it's actually been almost a year now. I think it's on Earth Day last year that we launched Cuppa for Climate. And we thought it would be a good idea to have a webinar now a week, not a week later, a year later, where we've had a number of people, including some people I think on the call as well, who have done a Cuppa for Climate to kind of look back at see some examples of what people have done. But as well, we wanted to take this opportunity as to announce that we're going to be kind of relaunching our toolkit with some extra tips and tricks and some feedback that we've received over the year from different people who organized one to kind of help people further with the Cuppa for Climate and as well hopefully to inspire many of you to organize a gathering in your communities as well. So today in the next hour or so we're going to be looking at first a recap of what Cuppa for Climate is, because I know there's a few people who are also kind of new to this. Then we're also going to hear from Colette, who is one of the people who organized the Cuppa for Climate in the last year, some of her experience. And we'll then go into a bit more detail about how it works. I'll explain a bit more what's in the toolkit that we have and what kind of extra things have been added now. And then we're going to look back in a bit more about what other people have done. And then also we're going to talk about what you can do after your Cuppa for Climate. There'll be time for questions at the end. So feel free to, when I mention it, to either put something in the chat or unmute yourself or put your hand up. Yeah, so let's get started. So just a brief recap of what Cuppa for Climate is. It's basically our initiative to kind of to encourage people to organize a gathering with a group of people to talk about the climate crisis and explore positive actions for change in a friendly, informal way. So with this, we provide a toolkit where we kind of help you with the questions of how to kind of have a climate conversation with people, how to approach the subject, and also giving you kind of the basics of how to kind of organize a Cuppa for Climate. Cuppa for Climate is very much a space to kind of a way for us to kind of connect with like-minded people around us and to kind of grow the environmental movement, which we definitely need in Ireland. And it invites you to kind of think about ways to explore positive changes, as well as reminding yourself that you're not alone. There's a lot more people out there who are concerned about our planet and also want to do something. So that's a great way to kind of connect with people. I might actually hand it over to Claudia for a minute or so, who was there at the launch last year and actually created the Cuppa for Climate initiative. So Claudia, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. So Ruth explained it really well. Cuppa for Climate was born from the idea, I suppose, to recognizing the need for people to be able to come together and have conversations around climate change in a safe environment. It's kind of a overwhelming topic, and often when we try and have these conversations with our friends and family, when it's not in a kind of a structured or supported way, they can end in or lead to more negative feelings. But we decided to make this guide to kind of support more constructive, positive conversations that would bring people together under the shared concern and hopefully lead to some sort of positive actions taken together. So we launched it last year on Earth Day in Beauty's Cafe in Dublin, and we had a really great turnout. Lots of our supporters came along, and I guess we wanted to introduce it through allowing people to experience it, and then ask our supporters who came, would they like to go and host a Cuppa for Climate in their own community, so in their workplace or in their local community hall or in their own home, and lots of people did. And over the past year, we've gotten lots of feedback, and we've used that to, I guess, try and update and improve the resource. And now we want to um, offer more support to people who want to host a Cuppa for Climate in their community. And we feel like it's a really important offering because we know lots of people, more and more people are concerned about climate change, but they don't always have the people around them to be able to express those concerns and talk about the solutions and the pathways into action. So this is an invitation for people to be able to do that. Um, yeah, I think that's everything from me. Ruth, unless
Great.
there's anything else you need to say.
No, that's great. Thanks, Claudia. Yeah,
Okay.
so with that in mind, we'll look into the toolkit or kind of the resource that Claudia mentioned there in a bit more detail. But before we do so, I just want to check if Colette, I see you're in the call, on the call. Um, so Colette was one of the people who organized a Couple for Climate, and she yeah is going to say a few words about her experience. So before I'm going to introduce you, Colette, I'll just say Colette is a project coordinator of Feminist Communities for Climate Justice, which is a joint project between the National Women's Council and Community Work Ireland, aiming to put a gendered and feminist and community work lens on climate justice. On top of that, she's also a member of Transition Monaghan, a voluntary group that is part of the Transition Town movement. And then she also is part of the D8 Greenbridge Forum and her local community action tenants union. And so she's a full-on activist. She's always very busy, so I'm very happy that she had the time to speak to us for a few minutes. Colette, would you like to share your experience?
Yeah. Um, Hello everyone. Yeah, so I'm kind of here with a couple of hats, but yeah, so the picture on the screen there, I suppose, yeah, I'm Colette. I work on the Feminist Communities for Climate Justice project. And this is actually a picture with me and my colleague Catherine. We live in the Kilmainham Inchicore area, and separate to work and everything, we just thought it was a nice way maybe to do something together on climate. And for myself, I just moved back to Dublin back last April, and I wanted to get to know kind of people in my local area and what the crack was. So we organised it, and there was a good enough turnout. But like in hindsight, you know, there's little things we learned from that. I can come to that at the end. But there was actually a lot of counsellors there, which was great. And since then, I've been invited to a few different I suppose groups in the local area, and I've got involved with. And one of those is the Dublin 8 Green Bridge Forum. I always mix up what the entire name is, but it's something along those lines. But yeah, we did a lot of promo online, and Catherine, my colleague, would have baked some goods, and we had herbal teas and just coffee and the chats. And then another event that I had, which was a Cuppa for Climate, was in Transition Monaghan. So I'm from Monaghan, so I had it in my local town, Monaghan town, and did it with my kind of co-volunteers in that group. And again, a nice enough turnout. There was a few people that we hadn't met before, and so they've since come on board with the Transition Monaghan and have fed into like our submission to our local climate action plan for the county and stuff like that, and other events we're planning to do. But yeah, like all in all, like really positive experiences, meeting others, kind of learning what kind of the key concerns are of people in their local area. I suppose I would say I'd love to maybe do something in more Dublin, maybe Kilmainham area, maybe have an actual group and do it with them. So the way I had Transition Monaghan as my foundation, that kind of was a comfort, and it gave more weight to it. I don't know how to maybe, yeah, I think just a bit more credibility to it maybe, and people were more willing maybe to attend because of that. Whereas me and Catherine were just random people having a Cuppa for Climate in Inchicore, Kilmainham. So that's just a bit of learning, but you know what, two completely different places, you know, Dublin, Monaghan. So maybe it was a bit of that too. So, and yeah, the main things we did was just plug it online, and then in my local town in Monaghan, got it in the local paper. And I think I tried to get it on the radio, but I can't remember if they took it. But the likes of Ruth helped me out with, you know, sending over the poster, and I can't fully remember all, but I was supported, is what I'm saying. And the questions, by the way, are brilliant. Actually, you struggle to get through all of them. I'll say it's my time management probably wasn't on the ball. But yeah, that's kind of a run through of how we got on. I don't know if there's anything I've missed or you'd like me to cover.
No, that's great. Thanks so much, Colette. We actually have a question in the chat, and now that you're here, I might as well ask that. Like, where did you host the events?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a community hall. Both one was a pastoral hall in Monaghan. It's kind of like a community centre now. We did have a fee for it. And then the other one was the CIE Inchicore Works building. I feel like Aaron, you might know a bit more about that building than I do. I haven't been in it since. But I think my colleague Catherine's kids go to school around there and got it for free. So yeah, and then how many people turned up? I think for the Inchcore one there was just under 10 people, and then for the Monaghan one it was up near 15. So yeah, thanks, Aaron. So yeah, that was kind of the turnout. And I do recall we had the one in Monaghan in July, which was just a bit silly because everyone's away and I don't think it was a great time of year. So personally I'd be avoiding it. Like in my own work, as you were saying, like feminist communities for climate justice, I try to avoid any community kind of outreach during July, August. So I don't know why I treated this any different. So yeah, maybe avoid those months and winter time when people want to be in out of the cold. And also this time when during the day and a refreshing lemonade or something in the morning. Um, Bank of Ireland, we have sustainability group.
Yeah, so yeah, I think well, location we'll touch upon that as well in a second. I suppose it kind of depends. I think nowadays, now that it's spring and the weather is kind of better, it's also a great opportunity to go to have a picnic. And I think that's also the first event that you had was also outside. So yeah, so thank you very much, Colette, for sharing your experience there.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, well, we hope that that kind of it gives you a bit of a teaser of what a Cuppa for Climate is like. And so I kind of want to go in a bit deeper in what the resource that we provide, what that entails, and kind of how we go about it. Colette there kind of already talked about a few things to think about when you're planning, but I don't want to overwhelm everyone. So let's just first to kind of start with I suppose the basics for anyone who is interested in planning a Cuppa. So in the resource now we've kind of added some more tips and tricks about how to go about it, because there was some common frequently asked questions that came up from time to time. So first, kind of when you're planning your Cuppa, it's good to kind of take a moment to think about, okay, what would you actually like to achieve, or what would you like to gain from this? So it could be simple as like, oh, I want to take this opportunity to get to know more people in my community, and kind of use it as an excuse to get to know people or my neighbors. But it might also be that you're actually interested in perhaps starting a group, or perhaps looking for more like-minded people, whether it's in your community, whether it's at work, or perhaps you're looking to do some kind of activity or community fundraiser, and kind of Cuppa for Climate can kind of go into all those kind of ideas. And so when you have that kind of an idea of like, okay, this is what I want to do, that will really inform you about where you can have the event, and who you can invite to it as well. So it's kind of a good idea to think about, okay, what is available to you? Now Colette kind of mentioned there already kind of a community hall. That's a great way to kind of connect with people in the community. Perhaps there are other groups as well that you can kind of connect with and see if they want to help out or join. Perhaps if you want to do it at work, there might be some place in the office, or even via Zoom, that might also be an opportunity. So yeah, if you have an idea of what will you like to gain from it, that will also really help you kind of planning your Cuppa. And throughout of all of this as well, like there's tips and tricks in the toolkit, but you can always reach out to us as well if you have any questions and you want to brainstorm on ideas. So once you have an idea what you want to do, you decide on a time and date, that also kind of helps you, okay, how do you tell people that the event is going on. So Colette mentioned there's a poster that you could use, but you can also share it via WhatsApp message and all these other tools that are available. So more on that will be in the toolkit as well. So there's one question that, well, two questions that people kind of have asked over the past year, or something that we noticed is that some people are nervous about hosting a Cuppa for Climate, and I just want to mention that like it's completely understandable that you feel nervous, but if you think about it, like you're doing it for a good cause. You're doing something to connect with people and to do something for our planet, and I think that's really kind of makes it very meaningful. And then as well with the resources that we provide, like the questions in themselves, it's very much we encourage the people who attend the Cuppa to engage in conversation. Like it's a great tool to kind of start talking and encourages you to, with prompts and questions, to think about different climate issues, and the conversation will flow from that. Like so we have a list of questions, but you'll see once you start talking that people will be like, oh yeah, and this, and I have another example. So it will basically, like, yeah, the participants will be kind of ones kind of carrying the event as it goes. And then as well, so some people have been worried that like, oh, what if only a few people show up? And I suppose there's two things here, like the success of your Cuppa is not really based on how many people you have. It's more about kind of the engagement that you have and the connections that you make. Because even if you reach out to one or two more people who are very passionate about climate, or don't know where to start and want to do more, they might now be encouraged to do something also in with their family or with their at work or something, and it will create a ripple effect. So I think it's really important to kind of not underestimate that as well. And then we've also had examples where people were worried that not many people would show up, and they ended up having a lot more people than they expected, and also people that they didn't expect would be interested in climate issues. So all of this as well, you can always reach out to us if you do have any more questions, but we do have now a list in the toolkit with more questions that people ask, so hopefully that will kind of support you in that as well. So that's kind of in terms of the hosting of or planning the Cuppa. I suppose the main part of the event is very much the questions. So there's a list of questions, and it's basically you start off kind of more introducing yourselves, of course, who you are, and kind of standing still about what is your connection with nature, and kind of why is that important to you. And then we kind of move on to a bit more questions about things that you might be worried about, perhaps specific climate issues that kind of yeah, that resonate with you. But then we also kind of move to look to see what other groups are doing, what is happening in the world, examples of positive things, and how can that inform yourself and also as a group of what you can do next in your climate activism or your climate action. Yeah, so even though these questions are very much open-ended, like I said, people can kind of go off and go, there might be a specific climate issue that people want to talk about. So yeah, so it's very much a way to kind of, yeah, encourage this conversation. We do encourage to kind of follow the guideline or the questions, as it kind of helps you to kind of get to the point of, okay, what do we do next? But like I said, it's very much, you can kind of take it from what you need. We've had a Cuppa for Climate with Fairtrade Ireland, who decided to do like a panel discussion beforehand and to talk about the impact of climate change in Brazil on coffee farmers, for instance. And that kind of really informed the Cuppa for Climate we then had. So now, I'm not saying you have to do a panel discussion, but I'm just saying this is an example of how you can kind of inform the conversation and kind of make it in such a way that suits you and what you like to achieve with that. So that's kind of the questions that will be in the toolkit. So then I'll go on to the next part as well. So something that we like to offer with Cuppa for Climate as well is an optional fundraiser. And this is a great way to, also with community fundraising is a great way to get people together as well and to kind of raise more awareness in your communities. And also a great way to kind of, collect donations for a good cause. Now, I will say this is optional. Not everybody feels comfortable doing it, and it might not necessarily suit your aims. Perhaps you're looking to kind of, create more of a group, and you might feel like, okay, this might be not the best time to ask. That's fine, but we do want to offer it, and there have been people in the past year that have done this community fundraising, and it's a great way to connect with people as well. So we've got a couple options here, and we'll go into more detail in the toolkit, but you can donate via different online platforms that we have. We have iDonate, which is a crowdfunding platform. We've got Facebook, and then also just normal fundraising at a gathering. We've had some questions that we also kind of discuss in the toolkit of people being like, well, I'm not sure how to ask. So we kind of give tips and tricks on that, and also some fun and creative ways to raise funds. Like you can turn your Cuppa into a ticketed event by asking people for a donation as a way to register for the attendance. This might not fit for every Cuppa, but it might suit for what you're thinking of doing. Or even just something simple as a bake sale, by asking people to make a donation in exchange for a coffee, a tea, or a sweet treat. So there's definitely a lot of creative ways you can do this as well. So if you are interested, definitely feel free to reach out to us, and we will support where we can. So with that all in mind, I want to take a moment to kind of discuss or give a few examples of previous Cuppa for Climates, so you have a bit of an idea and hopefully get some inspiration about what you could potentially be doing. So we've had a very a large number of Cuppa for Climates, and they were all ranging from different activities. One did a more a coffee morning and followed the questions or the guide one by one. We had other people that took the opportunity to use it more as like a way to brainstorm for new ideas with an existing community activist group to think of like what's the next thing we can do. We've had people who wanted to form new community groups. We also had people that decided to go for a hike and or do something at work. People who did a clothes swap, a panel. So it's a very wide range of events. But one thing that we noticed with all of them, it comes down, or the feedback that we received, that people really enjoyed that the fact that they could connect with people. And I think that's kind of the key in Cuppa for Climate. It's a great way to get to know more people and to connect with people on issues of climate. So you can check out our website and our social media for more examples. I want to briefly touch upon a few that I've attended to as well, that I really enjoyed. So there was one Cuppa for Climate that was hosted by the Gentle Travel Guide and Tidy Towns, and that was more of a community event where it was a whole day event actually, where besides the Cuppa, they also invited different people from in the community to kind of share their expertise. We had people, somebody who gave a biodiversity talk. There was somebody who showed more about like different cooking skills or art skills as well in the theme of climate. And as well, there was a group from Mexico, from an indigenous tribe that performed for us. So I think there's a picture there as well. And so it was a great way to kind of connect with people and discuss different topics of climate and the environment. I also attended a Cuppa back in December at Trinity College Dublin, and where different staff members joined to talk about, to do the Cuppa for Climate questions. And this was really great to see where people were connecting. So what I mean is that there were some people that they were like, oh yeah, you're doing that in your work, I'm doing this. Perhaps we could meet up after this as well and collaborate. So it's a great way to bring like-minded people together, and yeah, you'll be surprised kind of the connections that follow with that. So yeah, so this is kind of an overview of kind of or some ideas anyway of what people have done, and hopefully this inspires you as well. Yeah, to organize your own cuppa. So I've been talking now quite a bit, but I wanted to stand still as well to think of, okay, what can we do after the Cuppa for Climate? Because one thing we've noticed in our feedback from a lot of people is that there was definitely appetite for, okay, what do we do next? Because a lot of people felt like excited or felt like, oh, there's some issues here that we can work on, and how can we go forward from that? So one thing that we have in the toolkit now is to kind of give you some ideas of what you can do next. So besides the practical things of staying connected with people that you've just met, like sharing your contact details, we also give some more other tools to kind of help you in the next step of your climate action. So and we took in mind kind of people from all different backgrounds as well. So we'll have a variety of suggestions to support people depending on your time availability as well, offering various actions on community level and council level, and as well as showing some practical resources that we have that can perhaps help you as well. And all of this will kind of also tie into kind of the work that Friends of the Earth is doing as well. And with that, I would actually like to invite Erin and Circa, who've attended or are attending this webinar today, to kind of talk a bit more about kind of what Friends of the Earth is doing, partially of our Act Local campaign, which I think many of you have heard about, and as well with the upcoming elections. So I might just hand it over now to Erin or Circa. I don't know if you have a preference of who is talking first to talk a bit more about this.
I think maybe it makes sense for me to go first, and then
Yeah.
I can bring you in, Circa. So, hi everyone, I'm Aaron. I'm the Global Citizenship Education and Activism Support Officer here at Friends of the Earth. Thanks for the introduction, Ruth. So, yeah, what Ruth was saying is that one of the ways that people can become part of the Friends of the Earth community, stay involved, and get active is through our Act Local initiative. So, Act Local is our kind of network and effort to build support for faster and fairer climate action on a local level, holding decision makers and local authorities to account, and primarily themed around space for nature, so biodiversity, and what we're calling connected communities, which is around public transport and active travel, because these are things that local authorities, local politicians actually do have some ability to implement on that level. Sort of the bigger picture idea is, as the name suggests, think global, act local. So we now have kind of an overarching national level climate action or climate plan, climate law within Ireland, and we have localized local climate action plans that councils are all obliged to roll out. But the issue now is about implementation. We have these targets, we have these goals, we have these carbon budgets, but how do we actually make sure that tangible steps are taken to reach those in a way that actually matters for lowering our emissions and building a fairer society for people and for the planet? So that's where Act Local comes in, and the idea is that the basis of our organization, where we can build this strength the most to start, is by building in our local communities. So really getting out there, talking to people, getting beyond our networks of our environmental networks, and building more people into our campaigns, our work, and putting pressure on local decision makers to make reforms around biodiversity and public transport and active travel. So these can be things. So it's basically it's a toolkit, it's a network, and it's support from the Friends of the Earth team in order to carry these out with a variety of templates to work from. So one of the key things that we have released is a campaign guide, the nuts and bolts of campaigning and organizing, which takes you through how you build a group, how you talk to people, how you find an issue that you want to get active on, and how you go about doing activities around it and raising awareness of that issue and making change. We have sample petition guides, we have template press releases, and we have like full briefings on both of those topics I mentioned. around nature and public transport and active travel that go in depth into the science behind them, the background of local authorities, decision-making structures, and all the rest of it, and what they're responsible for, to give you an idea as to what you might be able to do with yourself, your neighbors, your local community. Whether or not there's a group in your area or not, we have a map on the website where you can sign up to the Act Local campaign and find out if there's somebody that's already gotten involved around you that you can get in touch with. Or if there's not, you can ask for support and we can help you, put you in touch with other people in your area and start to form a group yourselves. So that's it kind of in a nutshell. One of the core things that we're working on at the minute in Act Local is the local elections, and also the EU elections, but with a large emphasis on the local, because it's a campaigning moment. It gives us a great opportunity to bring our ask to politicians and decision makers around climate and broader environmental issues as well. And it's a powerful moment because it's happening everywhere all at once. It's a great way to bring people together and campaign on these issues collectively. And so yes, Cuppa for Climate can play a great way in bringing people together initially, who might not know each other, or just to raise awareness of your group and raise awareness of issues. So whether or not you've got a group already, it can be great to run a Cuppa for Climate as part of your campaign strategy. Or if you don't have a group, it can be great to run a Cuppa for Climate to meet others who are like-minded and start the foundation of that group that can go on and do other stuff. And I'm going to pass over now to Circa, who can give a bit more information and detail about our election plan in the next month and two.
Thanks, Aaron, and hello everybody, and it's great to see so many people here. So yeah, my name's Circa, and I am the climate campaign coordinator. And I'm new enough to Friends of the Earth. I think a few of us are new, but I'm the newest of the new people. But I'm happy to be here. Just to give you a little bit of an oversight, like obviously Friends of the Earth is a campaigning organisation, and many of you have been involved in it in securing in Ireland a climate law, carbon budgets, and there's been a lot of success over the last few years around elections and around ensuring that government listens to us around our concerns about climate and the need for action. I think a big part of Friends of the Earth's work is around ensuring that their governments take action. So yes, there's a huge amount around individual responsibility, and we can all make decisions in our lives about what we do with our plastics or how we travel, etc. But the real power, and I come from more of a human rights background, and the real power are the decision makers, and that's where the power sits. So a lot of our work is targeted at decision makers and targeted about them understanding what we care about, why we're concerned, and how we feel, and what we want them to do. Sometimes we don't know what we want them to do. That's okay as well, and I think it's okay just to say you care. But on top of communicating to decision makers, as Ruth has already said, how we engage and build our movement is initially, and we find that in many campaigns, is just how we talk to our friends and family first, and they are the first people that we can engage, and then it's building from there. Just to give you a sense of, obviously, it's, as Aaron said, it's a really important period. There's council elections, there's European elections, and there will be a general election before March 2025. Why they're really important, as they're always important, it's always important to vote regardless. But at the moment, as you know, there is a conversation or a kind of, I suppose, leaning in the media to push back against some of the climate actions, or to pit climate activists against certain groups in society. And what we're trying to do is to ensure that people have the tools to have conversations about how they care about climate, because we know people are worried, but also maybe have the tools about what needs to happen. I think that's, as Ruth said, it's quite a difficult piece. We don't always know, and it's just what we're doing is trying to facilitate that with our activists and our members and supporters. So in the lead up to the election, and on Earth Day, which is Monday, we are launching election demands, so local election demands and EU demands, which will focus on what are the main areas where emissions need to come down. And so that would be around fossil-free transport, fossil-free heating, but also ensuring that both those services are fair and accessible to all. What we're always coming across, and I say Colette and other people in their work as well, is that some people, some communities and some groups are kind of left behind in the climate transition, and a lot of our work is against that, ensuring that these are fair changes. We're also campaigning around clean and affordable Irish energy, and then around space for nature and sustainable agriculture. So our election demands will detail what we want Council to do, what we want the EU to do, and when the generals come, what we want all candidates to do for the election. They're not targeted at any political party, they're targeted at all political parties and politicians. And what we're saying to groups and members is that it'd be great if they could get involved and join us. So initially, obviously, Cuppa for Climate conversation is one of the actions that we think are really important. But also we'll be looking at a week of action in advance of the June elections, where people could meet, could talk about climate. There also will be a climate pledge online that will be launched as well. And there's loads of different activities that we want targeted at government. And I suppose for us it is hearing government hearing from people that they care about climate, that they'll vote according to people's climate policies, and that the issue of climate change hasn't gone away. And in fact, more people want you to do more and to do it fairly. I think that's enough from my side, but we will launch and put up loads of these tools online, and you will have access that Claudia and Ruth can share, and anyone can share. And if there's anything that you need from us, please do get in touch. And we are always open to hearing people's thoughts about materials, what they're missing, how we could do it better, so we can do better, if that makes sense. Thanks very much. Is that okay, Ruth?
That's great. Thanks, Erica and Erin. Yeah, so before I head into the Q&A, so this is kind of our introduction to Cuppa for Climate and kind of some more details about the toolkit. So we'll be sending out the materials and the different links and resources that we've mentioned throughout the webinar as well in an email within the next week or so that you can review it at your own time. And we hopefully, if you have any questions, well, we'll go into questions now, but if you think of anything later, you can always reach out to us as well. Before I head into the Q&A, is there any other staff members that want to say a few words?
I'll just jump in quickly. I just wanted to take a minute to thank everybody for participating in Cuppa for Climate this year, and particularly those who fundraised and asked their friends to chip in and donate, and those who donated when we asked so that we could create Cuppa for Climate, and also for creating Act Local, because it is the donations that you give that enables us to do this work. And that's why we have the fundraising aspect within Cuppa for Climate, because it is a really valuable way of contributing to climate action. And we recognize that there's lots of ways for people to offer their support, and not everybody's able to join an activist group in their area. Some people are very busy, they're raising families, or they don't have the capacity. But some people just have a couple of euro they can give, and that's really valuable. So it is important that we ask our friends and family to support the causes that we care about, because it is a really important way to support the climate movement, and it keeps our work going. So just wanted to say thank you so much to everyone who's contributed this year, and for the continuation of all our work.
Yeah, thank you for your contribution there, Claudia. Well said. All right, I'll now hand it over to anyone who has any questions. So feel free to put it in the chat, or perhaps raise your hand on Zoom, and and then you can unmute yourself. I'll stop sharing my screen so I can actually see everyone as well. Right, let's have a look. Right, so let's see. So Susan has a question. Don't you have any government funding? I'm not sure. Claudia, perhaps you might want to explain a bit more about this.
No, not really. We were largely supported by just individuals. We do get grants from various different places. But like this kind of work is largely supported by our supporters, and that's why it's really important that we keep our independence so that we can keep influencing for government change. So no, we're a non-government organization.
Thank you.
I see a question from Debbie. Do you think free chat or a particular theme is more useful? I assume you mean in terms of the questions in the resource. So I suppose this is really depending on what you're kind of what you're trying to achieve with your Cuppa. If it's a way to kind of see if there's like-minded people in the area, I would just say a free chat might be the best way. Also, if you're not entirely sure, perhaps you want to do some climate action, but you don't know where to begin, that might also just be a great way to kind of start brainstorming and kind of get inspired with kind of different things that people bring up. But if there is a specific goal in mind, so for instance, kind of the elections coming up, and you're like, I want to be in the community and want to have people talking about the elections, that might be good then to frame the questions in that way. Hopefully that's what you meant with your question.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thanks. Annie, I see you have your hand up. Oh, yeah.
Thanks, Ruth, and lovely to see everybody. I'm coming in from Belfast. Obviously, it's different here, the election cycle and so on, but couldn't agree more about the urgency of getting awareness out there. And I'm thinking about how to apply the climate cafe model. I just was wondering, because a few times now when you've been talking about it, you've been saying, you know, gathering like-minded people, and maybe people, it's sounding to me like you're reaching out to people who are already a little active in the climate, you know, movement. So my concern, or what I really want to see happening, is that we're reaching out to people who haven't had the conversation at all, who are afraid of having it, but who actually are feeling that fear, that anxiety. And I'm wondering if there have been any climate cafes that have been put on in that context, you know, reaching out to people who really haven't wanted to hear or participate, and certainly wouldn't regard themselves as, you know, knowledgeable about it in any way. Because I think if we don't reach those people, we won't get to our own tipping point in terms of, you know, making the pressure on those who are in power. So any feedback on that would be great.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Annie. No, for sure. I suppose sorry, I had a good sentence in my head and now I lost my train of thought there. So, Cirque, I see you want to say something to that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
can you hear me? Sorry, my
Yeah.
Wi-Fi's been. Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think the way we've set up Cuppa for Climate is to have those conversations with people that you know. So I think some people can be like-minded, some people they don't have to agree with you. I think I always have a family member that doesn't agree with me on many things, and that's the kind of person that I think we should be trying to get to these conversations. So it's a light entry, like, so it's not a high ask for them, and just to talk about their fears. I think a really key part to how we do outreach is listening to people that don't agree with us, actually, and to trying to build some common ground. And it is like a part of our work is in the outreach is to engage with farming communities, other communities, and like that it may be opposed to action, and to talk to them about how we can build bridges. So I do think if you're trying to reach out to people that mightn't be agreeable, maybe it's my sense would be to do it one-on-one maybe at first, or two, like, just to make sure, because it can become quite, you don't want it to become quite oppositional, and that's where I would be careful for your own self-care a little bit around it. But I do think it's a good way of building conversations and building relationships with people and bringing people on board. So I don't think it should be only like-minded people, but maybe not the extreme skeptics that might shout at you or something. And that's where I'm going into my family member. But yeah, I do think it's a very good question, and we need to do more of it.
Yeah, and I think kind of with that as well, it's like there's also a group of people that wouldn't necessarily be experts, kind of what you said, Annie, but might but don't know where to begin either, and perhaps want to learn more, but don't know where to start, or perhaps never heard of different environmental groups and all that. And I think kind of in this way, with this event, it is a great way to also reach out to them as well, the people who perhaps want to do something but don't know where to begin even, or even have that conversation. So these questions can therefore also be a very good guide to kind of introduce that topic to them and have that conversation with them as well. Erin, I see you have your hand up. I'm not sure if this is about this question as well.
Yeah, just very briefly, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Annie. I think that's a really good point. Maybe like-minded people wasn't the best phrasing. I suppose like with an event, that's framed as Cuppa for Climate, like as Circa said, we're probably not going to be bringing in the hardcore skeptics, but you're bringing in people who are either maybe somewhat active or have a knowledge about the topic and feel some anxiety about it, or people who are maybe on the fence and want to hear a bit more, and that you might be able to reach out to through your networks. But I do fully agree that like if we want to win any sort of major systemic change and policy around climate, which is really what we're all pushing for, that we do need to get people who are not in our spheres of influence at all involved and active. And I think that's where the campaigning side comes in. And I think, there's different tactics and strategies we can use to get different outreach to different people. We can do Cuppa for Climate, we can knock on doors, we can go on the media, etc. But this is a good way to, I think, get an initial network of people who might be interested in taking action together. You're not going to get everyone all at once in the first round, but it's I think it's good for settling a core and raising awareness, and then also being better equipped to go out and have those harder questions in more challenging situations.
Claudia, I see you also have your hand up.
Just to add to all that, it's good to try and talk to all kinds of people, but I feel like just to kind of know yourself and your limits and to take care of yourself too, because sometimes there's people that we're not going to get on our side, like let's say hardcore climate deniers, or people who are, so far away that you might just cause yourself stress trying to have an argument with them. So, kind of just make a call on it yourself, how comfortable you are, but don't feel pressured to have really difficult conversations with very difficult people, because it can just cause you unnecessary stress.
Yeah, and Susan just added a good comment there in the chat as well. I suppose kind of reaching out to groups that might have an interest, even if it might not be directly like or have like an overlap in interest in a way. They're also great to engage with this as well. Kira, I see you have your hand up for a while. I'll let you, that's your question.
Thanks. It's a little bit similar to Annie's. So I was wondering about doing something like this in my workplace, and which means we might necessarily get the most like-minded people, I guess. So I was wondering if there was anything in the guide about, I guess, how to approach these topics without coming across as preachy.
Yeah, so the questions are very much open-ended to kind of encourage people to just share their thoughts rather than being like, oh, this is the way it should be done. And I think kind of going with those questions and have that conversation and meeting people where they're at, I think that will kind of be the best way to approach that. We will have a resource just in general available soon, kind of just we call it like Mythbusters as well. So there might be certain things that people might say, but like, what about this? What about that? Just like and we have some kind of advice on how to respond to that as well. So that's something that might be useful in that context. Circa?
Just really quick one on the Mythbusters. So it's just trying to take some of the topics that are out there, like, oh, is flying worse than chips, or just to give you a sense of the some facts around is there really climate change. It just gives you a good idea, very quick brief answers on what the reality or facts is. But there's also, which we will share in 2 weeks, a conversation guide that is coming from Friends of the Earth Europe, and it's not for Cuppa for Climate, but it is just how to talk about climate without being preachy, basically, without kind of isolating people, and without making people feel like they are asking the wrong question or they don't know. That's what we don't want. That's the last thing I think people need as we go forward. It's just to try and build around. So those can be shared as well. So I think they'll be really helpful.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica. Let's see if there's any more questions in the chat. Oh, Louise, sorry. Yeah. Oh, you're on mute.
Could I just say something?
Great. Can you hear me now?
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Miriam, I'll just have Louise ask your question and we can go to you, Miriam. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay. So I kind of feel I was looking at it in a rather old-fashioned way of having a coffee morning and raising plenty of money for you. And I feel quite alone in the sense that my own family, my friends, nobody ever talks about it really. And I'm not exactly an expert or an influencer. And I just wonder, do FOE, of which I'm a member, or not a member, but a contributor, do you have a moderator, or would you have if I said somebody that you've all heard of is coming to speak for half an hour, or, or whatever, and it'd be in my home or whatever, do you have that sort of a thing to offer us? I'm not trying to make a whole new group. I'm trying to fundraise and get a little, maybe everybody will understand why I go around a bicycle all the time, and I don't travel, but I don't want to go down to my own personal oddities either. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, Louise. Yeah, so depending on where you're having your cuppa and also when it is, we do if we have the capacity, we do like to join Cuppa for Climate and support you. So if you're interested, yeah, we can get in touch and kind of work out the details and see how we can support you with that as well. And if we, in case due capacity reasons, we're unable to join, we're more than happy to have like a call with you before and also after to kind of go through the event, to the gathering, and yeah, and answer any questions you might have. We can send on some resources and all that as well, some extra flyers to support, yeah, if needed as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Miriam?
No, I just had an idea that maybe you could, add a title to your Cuppa for Climate and have a sort of a specific main topic, like say something like, what is biodiversity, or, what can we do about pollinators or something, and sort of have it in the advertising for it. What do you think?
Yeah, thanks for that suggestion. Now that's definitely something we could look into. I suppose just the Cuppa, not necessarily everybody is interested in talking about biodiversity topics, but it is definitely especially if you want to organize your own Cuppa with that, something we can support you with and see if you can advertise that to your the people you invite as well. Yeah.
Just to add, so Biodiversity Week is coming up in May. I think, what is it, the 19th of May, that week? And we will be actually hosting a Cuppa for Climate in Cork. So we've already hosted a few in Dublin, so we're trying to branch out to other places, and we're going to Cork. But it could be a great moment for you guys to host a small Cuppa for Climate in your community, and to kind of bring in that aspect of biodiversity and get your community thinking about what's happening out in nature. It's springtime and it's kind of more in our mind. It's more visible to us. It could be a great moment, as Miriam suggested, bringing in that additional aspect.
Great, thanks, Claudia. I see a question there. For hosting an event, why not attend one first or plan to do it with a friend or two to feel supported? That's a great idea. If you are interested in attending one, feel free to reach out to us and we can see if there's any going on in the area. I do encourage if anyone is interested in hosting one as well to let us know, because we've had that sometimes people tell us after the fact, which of course that's also fine to do, but we always like to hear what people are organizing and if we can support in any way. I thought I saw somebody perhaps who tried to raise their hand. Yeah. Oh, you're on mute, Mary. Can you? We can't hear you. Perhaps in the chat. Sorry, I haven't seen it. All right. If I host in my home, is there a way of getting beforehand an idea of numbers? I suppose you can. Numbers. I mean, with the people who are attending the event. I think you mean, yeah. I suppose asking, double checking with people if they want to attend. So it depends how you're going to invite people. Like if it's friends or family, you can, I suppose you can ask if they're coming or not. If you want to open it more to the public, you can use something like iDonate or another online platform to kind of have people register for the event so you have an idea of numbers. I can send you on some ideas for that as well. Okay, great.
Just to answer Connor there, a few people have asked if to find out if we're hosting a Cuppa for Climate. So I mentioned that we're doing one in Cork on Biodiversity Week, and we don't have any other ones planned as of yet. We would love to, but we'd also love to do it in collaboration with you. So if you want to host a Cuppa for Climate, reach out to us. We can see how we can support you. And if you want to use our network to invite people in your area, we can send emails to other Friends of Your supporters that live in your area, and to tell them about it. So that's how the kind of ways that we can support. And the more Cuppa for Climates we know about, the more we can tell you guys about them in advance. And hopefully we will keep posting them every so often ourselves.
I see, Connor, you also have the questions about it's too short notice to do it in Trinity on Monday 22nd. I'm not sure if you mean if you would like to organize it for the 22nd or if there's more a question about if Friends of the Earth can do it. I suppose if you're planning on doing it, it depends on who you're kind of reaching out to. I suppose if it's more kind of your colleagues, that might be enough time. But if you're also looking to extend it more to perhaps students, it might be a bit short notice because I know there's like exam period and it's a busy period at the moment. But there's also a couple of other events coming up that might be more suitable or give you more time to prepare if you want as well. For instance, there's the Biodiversity Week coming up in May. We've got Environment Day in June. So there's a number of kind of key days as well in the next few months that kind of might spark people to be like, oh yeah, let's do something for the environment and for our planet. And it might be a good way to advertise the gathering.
You know, I was just thinking that for Earth Day, it would be nice to do something. And if there's nothing organized currently, Cuppa for Climate might be an opportunity to do something. I don't know how much organization is needed to set one up. In Trinity, for example, I'm sure we could do it in one of the lobby spaces in the business building. But I can round up a few people, but I'm just wondering, is that an option?
So so it's for us, for Friends of the Earth, we actually have an event on the 22nd, not a Cup of Climate event, but our Earth Day conference. So a lot of our capacity is going to that on that particular day. But if there's any other day where you would like us to support, perhaps in the week or the days following that, yeah, we can get in touch and see what is possible there. Hope that answers your question.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Connor.
But also, Connor, I wouldn't wouldn't want that to deter you from hosting it yourself. So if you feel like even you got 7 people together on Monday the 22nd in some room in Trinity, you know, it's very straightforward. Just send a text around, see who can come, grab coffees, a packet of biscuits, and use our guide to have the conversation. It can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be this big, grand event. It's just getting people into a room to have a conversation and see what comes from that, you know, to make the connections and to see who else is thinking and concerned and who wants to take action. And maybe from that, there might be some next steps. Maybe from that, you might decide to host a bigger Cuppa for Climate in Trinity in a couple of weeks' time, where Friends of the Earth could support you. So I don't want you to think that we're saying don't do anything next Monday. It's just that our capacity is limited because of the short notice and the other event. But I would say absolutely fire ahead. If that's what you want to do, I think that's a brilliant idea.
Okay, thanks. That's very positive. Is it possible to get that toolkit then fairly quickly? Yeah. Great, thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely send on the toolkit to you, Connor. Okay, well, I see it's just past 8 now. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks everyone for joining this webinar today. If you do have any more questions, feel free to send an email to us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And yeah, we're looking forward to, if you're going to plan it, hosting a Cuppa soon, do let us know and let us know how it goes. And if any support is needed, we're here.